Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're checking out my top 10 favorite manhwa in a game world slash MMORPG slash VR world that are honestly all worth checking out. Starting off at number 10. At number 10, we have Rise of the Cheat User, and I'm gonna be perfectly honest, number 10 was a bit of a struggle here. There's a lot of manhwa that I've read in VR worlds that I think are honestly really meh. Just not great, and this one is kind of one of them in some ways, but I must say, I've enjoyed it more than I would like to admit, to be perfectly honest. There's some concepts that are explored in this series. The whole thing of his debt that he's trying to pay back, but also this brilliant cheat user in games that has managed to live lifetimes. Well, that's kind of the first premise, but the only thing I can't say about this story is kind of the harem dynamic of this. He's had multiple wives in the story, but there's just some things that work for me in how the different worlds are made and what they kind of look like. And I've enjoyed the ride thus far. So that is my number 10. At number 9, a little bit of a cheat here. We have Plus 99 Wooden Stick. This is technically a webcomic from Webtoon. And I'm not gonna lie, I've enjoyed this one more than I should. There's some stuff that I think it just does really well. The monster design, okay, particularly later in the series, the character designs are some of the most basic things you're gonna find out there. They're really not great. They don't have a ton of detail, they're simplistic, but there's some monster design later in the story that reminded me of Berserk monster design, which is ludicrous when you think about this type of series. That being said, it's surprisingly heartfelt and a good series, and it's one of the rare, I won't say rare ones on Webtoon that are really good. There's a lot of good Webtoon series, but this one I think is definitely worth checking out. At number 8, I'm going to be putting Updater. Updater is a little bit of a strange one here, because Updater follows a protagonist that is technically a part of the VR world. He's an NPC. And he just gets powers administrator level powers to start doing things and trying to save his video game world from being shut down from the outside. There's some concepts there that are really cool. There's some abilities that are well done, but it's mainly the character interactions that happen along the way that are surprisingly good. Not your typical VR world type story, but still a lot of the typical tropes of leveling and strength and stuff like that. But not so much with the protagonist. His skill is kind of a little different than that. But still, a great series, definitely worth checking out. At number 7 is Hardcore Leveling Warrior. I'm not as much a fan of this series as some people are. Some people are obsessed with how good this one is. I have to say I hate the protagonist, and I know that's kind of the point. You're not supposed to really like the protagonist. He's a bit of a dick. That being said, Hardcore Leveling Warrior starts off with a great concept of a character that's the asshole that has the best equipment and is able to kind of own everyone. Kind of get what's coming to him, and he loses everything and he has to start back from scratch. He's in debt. Tons of stuff of those concepts that we've kind of explored with other stuff, but it definitely has its own vibe. It's got a unique art style that I will say is not for everyone. It kind of works for me. I think it's a cool looking series, and I don't know. It's a fun one and definitely worth checking out. At number 6, we have Worn and Torn Newbie. Worn and Torn Newbie is I'll just kind of break you through the first few chapters, which I find is just great, of a character that's been on his game way too long, wasted his life playing it, and when time or something ends up restarting and he ends up being able to restart all the years he's lost in the game, all the money he's lost in the game, instead of being I'm gonna go live my life and be a better dude, he's I'm gonna restart the game again. The concept is not entirely new, but that obsession and the character's personality is really, I won't say unique, but definitely fun to follow. Warren Turn Newbie has one of the protagonists that I really enjoy watching that has continuously been really interesting. The fights are awesome. The character interactions are really funny in this series. And not every manhwa that has comedy really lands for me, and this one actually does. So good on them for successfully kind of landing those types of series. At number 5, we have Ranker's Return. Ranker's Return, I'd say it's the most standard MMORPG out there of an OP protagonist. Character that was this crazy good ranker, gets to restart the game at level 1, but all his skills, his human skills that he developed to play the game make him so much stronger than what he is. And so there's this element of social media involved in this, and streaming, and just him owning people that think that they can own him. It's just a really well set up VR world. I don't think it's particularly deep by any means, but if you're looking for VR action and just a fun story to follow, I honestly think Ranker's Return, particularly like the remake, I do want to point that out. Ranker's Return remake, there's two, but the Ranker's Return remake is the one you want to check out, is absolutely worth your time. At number 4 is The Legendary Moonlit Sculptor. If you had told me The Legendary Moonlit Sculptor was as good as it is, I didn't believe. I didn't believe people that told me. So it's basically a class within a certain game, a Moonlit Sculptor, and it just means, one, there's a fair bit of dialogue in this manhwa. The character interactions are fantastic. The protagonist is really good. The story is on point, and he's doing this to get rich. He's doing this to make money, but I'm not going to spoil it. This is one of the ones I'm saying, go into it. Legendary Moonlit Sculptor is absolutely worth your time. If you have not read it, you should. It should be on your list. Honestly, it deserves to be higher on this list. I have a little bit of regrets, but I think the other three deserve to be here. At number 4, we have Overgeared. Overgeared is beautiful. Protagonist is a lot of fun. He's obnoxious. He's a jackass in a lot of ways, but he's enjoyable all the same. I will say that I really enjoyed the beginning much more than I do the later parts of this series. Definitely last 60, I don't know. Right now it's not too bad, but maybe 60 chapters ago, I kind of got I'm kind of bored of this. But I can't deny that it's really good for really long, and visually it is beautiful looking. I'd say it's probably the best looking one on this list. Maybe number 1 could give it a fighting chance at where it is. But honestly, Overgeared, absolutely fantastic. Great characters, great side characters, honestly. They're not super deep as side characters, but they're a lot of fun to interact with nonetheless. And he does raise up those around him quite a bit, though he does so by making a little bit of money. At number 2, we have Mirim Login. Now, would you call this a VR series? Technically speaking, it absolutely is. Does it really matter that much for the story? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But Mirim Login follows a character that falls into a VR and ends up in a Mirim world. He gets out of the VR world. Anyway, the whole idea of this Mirim world, though, is the storytelling, the fights, the leveling system, everything. Mirim Login, fantastic. I'm in a VR world. I have game systems type manhwa. Phenomenal series. Absolutely worth checking out, and has a bunch of chapters to jump in on if you haven't read it already. If you're not into Mirim manhwa, you're not going to enjoy it because it is definitely purely Mirim, which is like martial arts, sect, period, and stuff like that. But do check it out. And at number 1, I didn't think I'd be putting something like this that's more recent out there, and that's Pick Me Up Infinite Gacha. Pick Me Up Infinite Gacha is so much better than it deserves to be. The idea of a character that gets pulled into a gacha game and is stuck fighting for his survival is okay as a concept. It's not crazy, because actually that's what happens in most of these VR games where a character gets sucked into the world. He has to try and survive in that other world, whether that's a VR game or that's just you're thrown into another fantasy world. But the way they've built how he's interacted with these new characters being summoned in the gacha system, the kind of tragedy of people being sacrificed made in other characters because of the gacha system, and just the whole quest that he's had to go through, the storylines, the difficulty surviving the different levels. He has tons of knowledge from the game. There's this game system admin fairy that's really on his side in this, but it's a struggle all the way through, and I have to say it is worth every moment you spend with it. Guys, if you like this type of video, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Drop in the comments down below what type of video you want to see me make. Not just top 10s, but what else would you like me to talk about on this channel? I want to talk manhwa, but I want to see what you guys want me to say. So with that, guys, have a great day.